An old classic here, the Piper J-3 Cub. Probably my best effort at building a scale model airplane. And this is the last of my older radio control models that I'm cleaning up, putting back in the air. I built this airplane from a SIG kit, and that kit was gifted to me from my mentor and the man that taught me to fly radio control models, Bill Brenchley. It was a Christmas present given to him by his wife and children that he said he'd never build. And at the time he gave it to me, he said the kit was probably more than 20 years old. So I built this plane in 1993, which means you're looking at a 28-year-old airplane. And I went down to a small local flying field out east and took several pictures of one of the two Cubs that was at that airport and attempted to build in as many of the scale details into this that I could. The thing about the SIG kit, Bill told me, was it had one of the most accurate scale outlines of all the kits that was ever produced. Scale airfoil, so much thinner airfoil. They didn't cheat on this to get it to fly better. The length of the tail, so the tail movement, the size of the tail feathers, which means it flies like a Cub. Tail dragger, you have to get it up on the mains, add throttle to the point where the rudder becomes effective. Tends to want a ground loop if you don't add enough throttle as you're coming up on the mains. And you have to do a wheel landing on this, so it's not an easy plane to fly. I'll show you some of the scale details on this plane. Show you some of these pictures here, and then we'll look at the plane itself. So this was a real big help getting the scale details right, building a J-3 Cub. I noticed looking at these pictures, the Cub is not a finely fit and finished airplane, even out of the factory. And the model shouldn't be built that way either. There is the other Cub that was there. There was two of them. I modeled it after this one. Looked like it had been recently reconditioned. It's in better shape of the two of them. Like here's the slot with a jack behind there for setting the trim for straight and level flight. Just the front of the horizontal stabilizer up or down. Tail details, the wires on the tail. Here's my model, freshly built. And here's the interesting part. So here's the hangar. It was a small airport out in farm country. And check this out. Here's the office at the hangar. I wonder if this is even still standing, this building. But the other thing I noticed is as my model has aged, it's got some fuel stains and some aging spots on it, it has become a better scale rendition of the full-size Cub. I have also flown this model on floats and also on skis, as you can see this picture right here. I have an OS 4-stroke engine in there. It's the FS48 Surpass. And interesting point there is 4-stroke single cylinder, 0.8 of horsepower, rated to 12,000 RPM. Gives a perfect scale sound to the Cub engine, which was a 4-cylinder opposed air-cooled engine that put out 65 horse at 2,350 RPM. So the scale sound of this model, single cylinder model engine, matches to the full-size engine that was in the Cub. So taking a look at the other scale details, there's my simulated dummy engine on this side with the air scoops. Of course, I can't do it on the other side with the model engine sticking out. Have all the correct openings in here, and I believe this is an oil cooler on the 1-to-1. As far as landing gear, it's the same structure. The difference being, instead of the bungees with a Naugahyde covering, I have coil springs in here for the suspension with simulated covering. Got the brake lines on it. Here is the step for going in the door. Back here is the handle for moving it around the hanger. And the wire on the tail feathers. This kit was a plug-in wing. I changed it, did not want plug-in wing. I wanted a one-piece wing. So I have the 2 nylon bolts, 2 wooden dowels going into these scale blocks. And in order to change this kit, which is a very accurate scale kit as far as the size of all these framing in the windows, most of the kits will make these much thicker to support a plug-in wing. I did not want to change that. I like the scale detail, so these wooden dowels right here, and their scale simulated metal tube frame, go up into this plate here in these blocks, and those are functional. Without these going buried way down in here, glued in hardwood dowels, that would rip that cabin and the wing right off. Have our gas cap and our fuel gauge, which was simply a wire with a float on the full size. Looking at some other details, I have all the correct struts on the wings, and these plug in right up here. Just plug into blocks built into the wing. So we just have screws, 2 screws here to remove, and a screw down here. So we've got that on each side, and then the 2 nylon bolts to remove the wing. So fairly quick setup at the field. Have the scale Cub wheels on it. Purchased items. And looking back here at the tail feathers, here is the simulated metal plate, and the slot creates the opening in the slot for the jack that's in there when I mentioned in the pictures for trimming for straight and level flight, trimming the horizontal stabilizer. I do not have the colored version of the Cub emblem, so just figured I'm paying homage to the SIG kit. That's what was in the SIG kit. Same with the numbering on the airplane, on the tail and on the wing. Those are the lettering and the numbers that was in the kit. The one thing I did not do is I didn't go with rib stitching on a model this size as far as scale detail. Although this is fabric, it's a Coverite's 21st Century fabric. It goes down beautiful, like Here's one of the harder spots to get right, not have wrinkles here, where the vertical stabilizer transitioned into the fuselage. That came out really nice. So that's a look at the details, scale details of the model. And like I was saying, as it's aged, it's got some spots on it, some fuel stains, and I've cleaned it up, but I'm not concerned one bit about them. I think it just makes for a better scale model of the full-size Cub. One more scale detail to show you. I do have working window and door. These clips that hold it shut are not scale, but that's what I came up with on the model. This handle in here is scale, and just like the full size has a clip up on the wing, full size it's a flat metal plate. I simply have a wire clip there. And yes, I have flown the model with the window open, just as they would with the full size for fresh air or the front passenger taking pictures. And I have, this is really cool, I have a scale door handle, functional linkage inside, the gauges right here, front and back. All the door really does is give me access to the electronics in the fuel tank, the cabin. So pretty cool scale detail, working window and door. This one didn't take much to get it back in the air, and I have already flown it. Oiled the engine. Still have it on the FM radio. Futaba S1 48 servos. Didn't see a need for faster, stronger digital servos. Not on the Piper J-3 Cub. So let's get it out and fly it. Wait a minute. All right, let's see if I can make a good takeoff with the Cub. Get a good transition from the takeoff roll to where the rudder's effective. Keep it from ground looping. So it's gonna be full up elevator to get some speed, and then add throttle, release the elevator, power down the runway. Get my timer going first. I always remember that on this. Okay. Low and slow, baby. It's full throttle on the climb out. About half throttle now. Cub in the air. Beautiful. Full power. Scale. The wheel do a loop. I put it in a dive. It's more about just flying around the pasture like you would with a full size. Let's get it up there. I'll show you a loop. Do a loop coming back this way at this altitude here. Great air, not real good sky. Full throttle. The old Cub. Rudder. Coordinated turns with rudder. Bobbing around in the slight breeze, and I mean slight breeze. Full power climb. Clawing for altitude. Do a downwind pass here. Coordinated rudder turn. How pretty is that? Let's bring this beauty in for a landing. So setting up on downwind, turning for base, and final. Oh! Good time for the throttle to cut out. I think that idle's still a touch rich. I like where the high speed is. But the wheel landing, don't try to 3-point this airplane. It will bounce, even though it's yellow, it'll bounce like an orange basketball.